I worked out, and the Catch Lift Foundation really helped us all. Everyone that was in my group had made great strides from it.
I feel good. And like Cal's program is a big part of that, and all that different stuff with the Coach's Corner and having coaches or having different things. Use all of it. Whatever you need, use it to get you to where you need to be.
Thank you for tuning in to the Catch a Lift Fund's Coach's Corner podcast. We hope you enjoy today's episode and will consider supporting the Catch a Lift Fund and the veterans we serve. Visit our website for more information about our programs at catchaliftfund.org. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis or suicidal thoughts, please call 988 or the Veterans Crisis Line 988, followed immediately by the number 1. The views and opinions expressed during the Coach's Corner podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the Catch a Lift Fund. The Catch a Lift Fund does not verify or warrant the truth or accuracy of statements made during the podcast, and statements therein are not to be construed as an official policy or position of the Catch a Lift Fund. This podcast is provided for informational purposes only, and nothing herein should be construed as health, medical, or other professional advice. The Coach's Corner is a place for veterans to connect, heal, and share their stories. I'm Melissa Luke, the host of the Coach's Corner podcast. I am a U.S. Army Iraq War veteran, coach, and program director for the Catch a Lift Fund. The Coach's Corner is sponsored by ID Technologies. Welcome to this week's episode of the Coach's Corner. Thanks for joining us this week on the Coach's Corner. I'm excited to introduce today's guest, Walter Obasuyi, U.S. Army veteran, Cal veteran athlete, and law enforcement officer. Welcome to this week's episode of the Coach's Corner. Walter, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. It's amazing. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, we're honored to have you on and get to talk with you today.
Before I get to myself, I just wanted to have a kind of a brief second to kind of update everyone on kind of what's going on around where I live. But yesterday at about 5 o'clock, I'm not even going to call this person a young man because the act that he committed was just hideous and inhumane and just horrible. But he decided to take upon himself to go out and, kill people on his Facebook Live. Four lives were lost, including one person who I know the daughter of. She was 17 and she turned 17 2 weeks ago. So he also injured 3 others. But it's extremely disturbing, and it kind of had me off tilt this morning.
Right.
I'm working to get back, but I'm a type of person that I like to believe that everybody has the innate ability to be good generally, and that situation kind of, challenged my beliefs a little bit. So that's where I am. I just kind of want to, it'd be my dream to just live in a space where everybody, loves and respects everyone regardless of race, religion, sexual preferences. None of that matters to me. We're all here for a purpose. We should be good and cordial to each other. So, I really don't have the answers to that. So that's kind of where the space that I'm in right now. But I just wanted to take a minute to, kind of put that out there.
No, absolutely. And thank you for touching on that for us, Walter. I had first heard about it just this morning that it happened. It's absolutely devastating, right? And we certainly we pray for all those who lost lives and for their families and anyone that's been affected by this tragedy. And absolutely continue to pray for your community and all the law enforcement there, Walter. Thank you for what you've done for our country serving, and thank you for this continued service within your community. It's outstanding.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So can we go now? We can go back to the original.
No, absolutely. No, thank you for touching on that, Walter. Talk to us a bit about your life growing up and what would lead you to the military.
Okay. Well, I was born in Nashville, Tennessee, and grew up in Memphis. And, small family, not wealthy at all. We struggled a little bit, but I didn't know at the time. I was just a happy kid, and my mom made sure we were happy. So I remember 7th grade being in health class, being a health and wellness class, and the TVs just come on all of a sudden. Normally the teachers have to turn them on, or but the TVs just pop on, and it's news about the World Trade Center and the attack. As we were watching the news, that's when the second tower is hit, and now not only are you dealing with the emotions of what's going on, but now we are visually watching the second attack. And being a child, that's a lot of emotion to process. But I knew at that moment that I was going to be in the military. So
Yeah.
I mean, right. I think I was 17 when I signed up, went to basic training that summer, and it was that on that. I knew for a while that it was going to be for me.
I had, and I think a lot of us did, right, of our generation, of our kind of age of war fighters, Walter, we had, similar experiences, and it's always interesting, right? Kind of where were you on 9/11? How did it impact you? And I remember for myself, I was in 10th grade at the time, so just a couple years older than you, and was driving with my cousin who was taking me into school, and we drove into the high school parking lot, and they interrupted the radio. That first tower was hit. Obviously didn't know what was going on, and in that space of time, right, so from the car into the school, right, we watched live, like you guys would have, that second tower being hit, and it was at that point it was like, okay, this wasn't an accident, what's going on. And it definitely had a tremendous impact on me also. So you would enlist at 17, Walter?
Yes.
Okay. What would you enlist in with an MOS? When would you take off for training?
So I enlisted in the Army Guard, and I signed up to be a military police. No real reason why I wanted to be a military police, but like I said, I was a young kid. We didn't have much money growing up, and at that time, that's when the Army was offering, $20,000 bonuses for the top 10 MOSs, and
right,
military police was like number 2 or 3. So I was like, yeah, that's a lot of money for a kid.
Oh my gosh, yeah, for real.
I picked to be military police, and it was just that on that. I think so. I graduated in 2006. The summer before I started college, I went to basic training.
Okay. Walter, talk to us about that. What do you remember most about being trained up as a young soldier?
I think because of the way I was raised and kind of the hardships I dealt with early on, things that seemed harder for most people weren't really a challenge for me. Not necessarily physically. I just mean mentally. So, like, when you get to basic training, you have to deal with the yelling and the getting up early and the PT. And in my mind, I had set this, ongoing, quote to myself, like, hey, I'm getting paid. They're yelling at me, but I'm getting paid to let you yell at me. I'm getting paid to work out.
This is true, right?
Getting free food, so I essentially, like, basic training wasn't bad at me because I was a young kid. I didn't have any bills. So I was saving money, and I had my little bonus check. And I mean, I enjoyed it, honestly. It was different, but it just wasn't, it wasn't a challenge as emotionally and mentally as some people think it is for me, because I was kind of set up for that hardness already.
Yeah, I would say I had kind of a similar experience, right? Like that never got under my skin and really affected me mentally and physically the way it did some of the other folks. And I think for my, just speaking for myself, I think some of it was just preparation on the front end. Just, my dad talked to me about it a lot before I went. He had been in the Army, and he told me, he's like, they're going to be all over you, like shark attack style.
Right.
And he's like, just try to blend in the middle, right? Just don't try to stand out. And he's like, it's going to end. But I enjoyed basic, I enjoyed the unique challenges of it, and just, being able to push myself mentally and physically. And the same thing, like when I got to my advanced school for my MOS, I mean, I enjoyed that time too.
Oh, yeah, it was different. It was fun. I found it fun. So
yeah, I feel that. So Walter, you would go on and you would deploy on rotation 2 different times into Italy. Talk to us a little bit about what it was like serving in Italy.
So these are more of, I think they consider them like training missions where we have an actual job. They consider it like training missions.
Okay.
So it's not full time of a deployment, but I mean, you just kind of have to kind of create a picture with the space I was in. I was in college at this point. I joined my fraternity at this point, so I'm like really buying into the college life, like enjoying college, and doing all this stuff. And my command has called me up and said, hey, you're going on rotation to Italy. I fought it at first. I was like, I don't want to go. I got classes, da, da, da. And they kind of forced me to go, and it made me bitter for a second. But the moment we got there, I had to, there was this trail we could run right behind where we lived, and the trail went straight up the mountains. And I ran to the top one day, and I'm kind of like, sitting there looking around like I'm a young black man like they grew up with nothing, sitting on top of a mountain in Italy. Like, how amazing is that?
Man, that's awesome.
So from that point on, I was probably the best, being the best soldier I could be there because I truly enjoyed it. And then getting selected to go again was just even more amazing,
Oh, that's tremendous.
I never dream of being able to, live in Italy, for the time that I did.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Walter, talk to us a little bit about your time in Afghanistan.
So in 2012, my unit deployed to Afghanistan. We kind of split up into teams or squads or whatever once we got there, with each team going to a different outpost. I was stationed in the northern province. It was different, I would say, for at least, because until then I'd never, experienced anything, of the sort. So it was definitely challenging. And I remember getting there. We flew on the transport planes, and the first, and we're just now getting into country or to our outpost, and I'm passed out, I'm asleep. It's a comfortable flight in the little net chairs, and I kind of wake up to my arms floating in front of my face, like just gradually floating. We're falling out the sky because they're doing a combat landing because we're taking fire. So that's my first.
Oh my God! No kidding.
Yeah, that's my first.
You came in hot into Afghanistan. Yes. Oh my gosh!
My first, day one heading to my post. That's the first. I'm like,
so that set it up.
Yeah, and it made me hate airplanes for a while. Yeah,
I can imagine. Oh my gosh! Yeah.
Yeah, and they were. It was funny afterwards because the pilots were really matter of fact about oh yeah, we took some fire, so we did a combat land, and I was like, yeah, that's not a we don't have a warning or intercom system or nothing. So, but yeah, so my time in country, being attached to, I'm just going to consider them top tier guys as far as Army soldiers. Very very unique experience. Dealing with that. It was different. That's all I can say. It's very different. It was unexpected and different. So,
yeah. Walter, would you talk to us a little bit about any unique challenges that you faced while in Afghanistan?
So I think the probably the most unique thing I had going on while we were in Afghanistan was my daughter was around, I'm going to say 5 months, and this was my first child. So, one, I was leaving my wife at the time, which we're now divorced, and I was leaving my new daughter, which I'd only seen once before, or once before we actually left, once or twice before we actually left. So,
oh wow,
that was a big thing. But any veteran who's deployed can tell you is, you have to kind of force yourself to disconnect emotionally from things going on at home because you don't have time to, worry about them or focus about them. Not to be mean or anything, but that's just the way you operate. You have to think about your missions. You have to think about the safety of yourself and your team. There's no time to really worry about what's going on at home, And I can remember vividly of people calling me, like my mom calling me or my ex-wife calling me, telling me things are going on, and I would just lose it or get upset with them because I'm like, I can't deal with this right now. Y'all gonna have to figure it out and hang up the phone. But that was probably the biggest issue, is learning how to just pull yourself away from those emotions of missing people and missing a child. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
My first child at that. It wasn't like it was the second or third. This is the first baby. So brand new dad, and that was rough.
Oh, yeah, I can't even imagine, what that'd be like personally. Obviously, I saw it right from kind of it, because when I went there, I was single, I wasn't married at the time, didn't have kids when I was in Iraq. but obviously served with a lot of men and women, that had families back home, young children, some of them babies being born while they were away. Um, and I experienced it in my own way as far as like, right, having to disconnect from anything going on back home, right? Because you just need to focus on this, and I saw these men and women do that too in regards to their families. We're going to loop back around to that in a minute here, Walter. But if you don't mind, would you just kind of walk us through an average, right? There's no average day in a war zone, but kind of take us through what a day looked like for you while you were in Afghanistan.
Okay, so I guess because of who we were attached to, I'm still got about a year or so on it being like top secret type.
Okay.
Deal.
Yep.
But generally, we were basically working. I guess you can call it a upper echelon of detainee operations.
Okay.
So we dealt with a lot of high value targets and whatever, and that was about the gist of it.
Okay.
Kind of holding them or inputting them, whatever we needed to do as far as that. So without getting too much, that was the
No, thank you for touching on that, Walter. So let's talk a little bit about coming home, and just before this, you told us about that, disconnecting from everything going on back home, including wife and new baby and stuff. What did that look like for you then, Walter, coming back to the US after this year where you've really had to kind of mentally detach from everything and everyone?
I think that as veterans, a lot of us don't realize that. I'm not going to say programmed, but basically it's a programming, how programmed we are. Because when we get in these situations or we get deployed, everything, there's no decisions that we need to make. The mission's laid out, the uniforms laid out, the vehicles are laid out.
Yeah.
We're literally told everything we need to do. And then, in our downtime, we even get into a level of programming in our downtime. A lot of people, if you got a big base, you go to the USO, you hang out, you watch movies. If you don't, you go work out, you go eat. I mean, it's everything.
Yeah.
Everything is the same for almost a year or over a year, So, making that disconnect is very, it's challenging, a little challenging, but it's easy once you get there. Like, oh, I'm disconnected. I'm in this frame of doing the same thing every day. I'm okay. And then when you get home, you wish it was as simple as, putting a plug back in the wall to reconnect. But it doesn't work that way. Now,
No.
you have your challenges, and for me, it's a child who doesn't really know me, and hasn't seen me for a year. So now they're having to make a new connection. So I'm having to connect with them, learning how to be a dad, essentially after, now while you're dealing with the stress of coming from deployment, now you need to be a dad. And you have to be a dad right then. It's not you can be a dad in about, 5 days. I'm going to give you 5 days to no, it's boots on ground, walk them home. Here's your baby,
Yeah.
So that's a lot, and I found times where I had to, stop and explain to people like I'm really dealing with a lot. Like I can't, I literally can't. I can't right now.
Right.
So, you have to make those challenges, and then there's a challenge of reconnecting with the spouse if you have one, and that's a challenge as well because you had somebody you didn't have to deal with for an entire year, and you get used to that, honestly.
What kind of how did you deal with that time, Walter, right? Because like you said, so this becomes fast now, there's no we refer to it, right, as this transition time, right, between like war zone, coming back home, or service to civilian, but it's not at the same time, right? You go from one to the other, like the door of time in Afghanistan or Iraq closes, you're back in the US, back with your wife, back with your child. How were you coping with that, or what were you doing to kind of drive yourself through that period?
I don't think I was. I don't even think honestly, I can't call it coping. I don't think it was very well, essentially, at first until I figured out how. But my thing was, I just got super immersed into training and working out and fitness. I mean, I was obsessed. And it was kind of a situation of like me preparing for that next moment. I got to prepare because they lost a guy where we were, and in my mind, I'm like, hey, this guy is this guy's a super soldier, and essentially, like this is the Captain America type guy, and he dies on an objective. So essentially I was like, well, I'm probably going to be next because I'm not as good as he is. So I went into this mode of like, I'm going to train, I'm going to kick butt, I need to go shoot. And that kind of hurts your family life because you're not at home, trying to
Right.
reconnect. You're in the gym all the time. But, I started partying a little bit. I started drinking a little bit because I was looking for essentially an answer I couldn't find and didn't know how to ask for help at the
Yeah.
time. So,
What would get you to a point, Walter, where you would be able to ask for help and and kind of get on that path?
So over the years, I kind of just taught myself how to, just swallow the pain, swallow
Okay.
the stress or whatever.
Yeah.
And, I have my spouse now or my fiance now, I kind of told her everything when we first started talking. And there's one point where it just I had things going on in my job. I was stressed out, and then I just had a moment to where I just had an initially a physical and mental breakdown. Like, she found me like in tears on the floor, and she called my mom, and then my mom's in the mental health realm of a healthcare specialist. So
Okay.
my mom immediately, and this is where the VA where I was a little slow, but my mom
Okay.
immediately called the VA. I went to see a therapist the next day, and we started this whole, basically this whole path of, becoming what I consider to be my normal. So,
Yeah.
so it's been a process, but it's worked, and I think I'm in a better space than I've ever been, and I'm
That's
happy.
tremendous to hear.
Happy home, happy kids. So,
That's terrific, Walter. That's terrific to hear. So a lot of folks, deal with in our community, what you described, coming home and, for some people, it's just, disconnecting altogether from everybody or, like you did, right? You really put this time into training and we're like focused on that type of thing. Um, and what would you say to, any veterans or military listening that, are kind of in that greater transition process, either out of the war zone back home or going from military to civilian, but they're, struggling, either asking for help or really figuring out what they need to do with themselves. What would you say to them?
I think, and I've shared this at work. Currently, I'm a law enforcement officer, and I share it with, the guys here too, because essentially I tell them like, you guys, I deploy for you. You guys, you deploy every day in law enforcement because you never know. You never know. Every day,
Absolutely.
every time you put on that uniform is a deployment. So I tell them the biggest thing, and we're tough guys and girls. We're got our big pants on and boots and all that. We're tough. I get it. I understand. We're tough, but it's okay to ask for help. I think that's the biggest piece of information I can share with everybody. It's okay to ask for help because chances are you're going to find it or somebody's going to find it for you.
Yeah.
So we can't do it by ourselves. I know we're tough, but there's only so much a person can take before they, break down. And I hate to see that. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Walter, like you shared with us, you were an MP in the military. After getting out of the military, how did you determine what career path you were going to follow now into your law enforcement career?
Well, I kind of floated around doing security jobs for a while, government security that paid really well. Got kind of bored with that, and I don't I still think back on like how I identified the moment that I knew like I'm gonna be a cop.
Yeah.
It just kind of came up. I was working for AT&T. I was a wire technician, so I was hanging wires on poles and bringing internet and TV.
Okay.
Amazing job. Like it was tough work, but I enjoyed it. It was something that kept me busy, and that was around that time frame where I was still like swallowing everything
Yeah.
going on wrong. So keeping busy was some of the best medicine I could find at the time. So it was winter, and I remember having to climb a pole near a church with snow and wind blowing, and I knew at that
Ooh.
moment I wasn't gonna do that job anymore. I'm probably not gonna make it through a winter here again. So
Good
I
night.
quit that and shortly after I applied to the sheriff's office, and I mean I've been here since then, so it's almost it'll be 7 years in November.
That's tremendous. Congratulations, Walter.
Thank you.
And talk to us a little bit about what you're doing there now.
So currently, I am a training instructor, so I get to train the new law enforcement recruits as well as do in service for the current law enforcement officers. So it's definitely fun because I get to do what I love. I love to teach. I love to train. I get to do physical training with the recruits, which is what's my favorite. You know, I love to. You know, it's just really helpful. I get to be a part of building the next generation of law enforcement officers, and it's amazing. So I've been here about 4 months now. So, but I'm definitely enjoying it. It definitely keeps me busy.
I'm sure it does. Talk to us a little bit, Walter, about like what you found fulfilling about mentoring and training these young men and women as they come through as recruits.
I think that so normally the trainers are normally on the older side as far as time with the sheriff's office. So I'm coming in young, which normally doesn't happen, but I applied several times to be here because I told them like I'm gonna keep applying until you guys pick me. This is what I want to do. And now you have the generation of law enforcement officers are getting younger and younger, and the older people aren't interested in being law enforcement officers. So now they have someone that they can relate to who's been in the positions they're going to be in, shorter than the older instructors have. So, it really helps. I can relate to them a little bit more. And plus, like I said, people tend to connect with people around their same age group. So
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's been very enjoyable, like learning from them and learning and teaching them as well. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to try to stay here as long as I can.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. Very, very cool. Walter, talk to us a little bit about how this career path has allowed you to give back to your local community.
So it's it's just amazing. So before I got to the training academy, I was assigned as a school resource officer, which is a very interesting job. So basically, the law enforcement element inside of a school, normally middle school or high school. I was assigned to a high school. Being there, and that's one of the things I chose to be there as well, because I wanted not only, I don't want the first interaction that these kids come up with to be, law enforcement to be a bad one, So I want to show them that, like, hey, I'm here for you guys. I'm here to help whatever you need. So, and that's essentially where I started training athletes as well. So I was working, I was the head coach of the girls track team there. And I was doing strength and conditioning for girls basketball. And I did strength and conditioning for football right before I left. So, I just wanted them to see, like, hey, it's not all bad every time you see a law enforcement officer. We're not all there to do you wrong or hurt you or take you to jail. Like, no, we want to make sure that you know right from wrong, but we're also there to help you.
Right. And thank you for touching on that, Walter. And I guess I would follow up with that. We're in I don't even know what you'd call it, but it's a unique point kind of in our time on this earth, right? Just with the general climate and everything going on. Talk to us a little bit, Walter, about some of the challenges of being law enforcement in today's climate and what you do to kind of combat that.
So I think the biggest thing, and I talked to someone briefly about it recently, it's almost, I feel like it's almost a little hurtful to have someone need you so much, but they don't like you at the same time. Like that's a tough pill to swallow. Like, hey, I do need you when I need you.
Right. Yeah.
I also don't like you. So, like I said, I'm a very sometimes people will look at me and say I look a little intimidating, but I smile all day and I talk to everyone. So I'm generally here to help people. So when you have someone who's just like, they don't like you because of your job or you work for the man or you do XYZ, like it's a tough pill to swallow. Like, no, I'm not out here just to like people. If I generally want to help people, like it's very like that's just the instinct. I want to help people, but like I said, it's very challenging to have someone who needs you but doesn't like you at the same time. That's a tough pill to swallow.
Oof. Yeah, I can only imagine what that would be like real time. Walter, what would you say to any veterans listening that have an interest in pursuing law enforcement, but they're just not really sure if it's right for them or not?
Um, I say it takes some deep soul searching, especially the way the world's going right now. It takes some deep soul searching. It's definitely one of those jobs that I advise people to make sure that that's where your passion aligns, because this isn't like working at a car lot or fixing random things like where you're just doing it because you need to have a job. Like you really have to understand and have a passion for this type of work, because there are officers out there that just doing it to be doing it, and that creates one or two things. You're either going to be disgruntled and upset all the time, or you're going to be one of those officers that's talked about on TV all the time. So if you don't have a passion for doing this type of work, leave it alone.
Yeah.
If you do have a passion for it, I say go for it.
Thank you for speaking to that, Walter. I want to switch gears here just a little bit and talk about your personal fitness journey and your time with Catch a Lift. Walter, when did you first learn about Catch a Lift, or how did you come to the program?
So I'm one of the ones who actually reads their VA newsletters. I
love it. I love it already.
And one time there was a small mention about Catch a Lift. Of course, the link was broken, so I was like, it was talking about, hey, veterans fitness, Catch a Lift. They didn't really give a big explanation on what it was. So I was like, hey, let me go check this out. So I Googled it and went to the website. And I'm like, wow, I'm looking through people that you guys have already dealt with. I'm looking at, Catch a Lift at CrossFit games. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Like, what is this about? And I started reading through some of the things that Cal does. And I'm like, wow, this is an amazing like company opportunity. Like, people need to know about this. So essentially, and when I first met with the guy who onboarded me, I told him that I was like, yeah, I have a pretty, good and decent fitness routine. And I said, I'm not necessarily doing this to be in better shape. I said, but I do want to learn about, Catch a Lift, so maybe I can share it with the next person who needs this type of help. I want to be that connection. Like, hey, you said you're having some problems. Hey, you should check this program out. They'll put you something together and help you with your fitness. I'm like, okay. So that was initially how I started. As far as my personal fitness, I think I've been obsessed since like high school.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. My mom has hypertension. My dad has hypertension. Neither are overweight. But when I went to the doctor, probably around 20-ish, my doctor told me like, hey, you're probably gonna have hypertension. I did not accept that. So everything I do now and moving forward is all to combat that. Like, you're not going to tell me I'm predisposed to some type of family. Because of my family, I'm predisposed to hypertension. I just don't believe it. So my fitness has been that, just me taking care of myself. Honestly, everybody should be a little shallow about how they look. So that's just what I believe. Me wanting to look good, me taking care of myself, and just really trying to extend my life. I think that's what fitness is all about. Being comfortable with yourself. Everybody you don't have to be a machine, but just have some level of comfort and, feel healthy, feel happy with who you are and, what your body looks like. Because that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Walter, what's your experience been like going through the Catch a Lift Fund Wellness Program?
It's been great. Honestly, it's been really good. I have a great coach, Adam. He's been working with me. We were talking, in CrossFit. I told him I was always interested in CrossFit, and I wanted to, eventually get my certification one day because I just find CrossFit interesting. I like the movements, and I love the CrossFit games. So,
right.
And when we talked, he understood that, I was already into fitness. He was like, "Oh, you look like you work out." And I was like, "Oh yeah, mostly, almost every day, but the weekends." He said, "Okay," and he was kind of explaining to me like, "Hey, if you don't want to do the workouts, you don't have to." I'm like, "No, I'm going to participate because I chose this. I chose CrossFit. I'm going to participate." And it's just been amazing. I like the communication between the veteran athletes and the coaches. They're always there. I text Adam regularly like, hey Adam, I had give you an example. I had a cortisone shot a couple of weeks ago in my knee, and I text him and say, hey, I'm probably not going to be
doing our workouts because my knee is a little sore. And he was like, "Oh, it's okay. Thanks for letting me know." But it's just that type of connection, having somebody you can reach out and talk to, physically talk to when you need to. And obviously for me, because I work out on my own, it's, I don't need a lot of communication for the coach,
Right.
but for somebody who does, that option is there. Like you can reach out, you can literally call your coach and talk to them. And I love the program. And, I've already, talked to a couple of people about it. Like, hey, you guys need to check this out. I know you guys are, because, they'll come ask me like, hey, can you write a program? Like, you're a veteran. You should check this out, man. Just give it, give it a look. If you got any questions, ask me. I'll walk you through it. So I love the program.
Oh, that's tremendous. That's tremendous. And thank you so much for pushing that Cal mission out to other veterans. That's tremendous. And, we're very grateful for that. And you touched on it a bit, Walter, but talk a little bit, if you would, about that community of like-minded veterans, right? Within Catch a Lift and how that can really help someone reach their goals that they might have.
I think the biggest thing is, and for anybody who listens to the podcast and maybe they're veterans and they choose to try to participate, they'll learn. But I think the group aspect of your dashboard, like, is just it's amazing to be able to talk to veterans that are on different levels, and there's like there's no judgment. Everybody's kind of fist bumping and cheering people on. It's an amazing atmosphere. You'll see some sweaty pictures posted in there, and hey, this is what I did today, and everybody's just it's just the whole community of veterans like uplifting each other, and it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Like, some days I don't even post. I'll go in there some days just to feel happy about, like, look at this community, veterans cheering each other on, like, hey guys, I did this, what do you think about this? Asking about workouts, asking about what they could do with kettlebells, or like, hey, this hurts, what could I do? It's a great community to be a part of, and honestly, I wish every veteran was a part of it and used it, and it's a great tool. I love it.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. The community at Catch a Lift is like no other. The positivity, the motivation that they push out to one another, like, it's absolutely tremendous. Walter, I do have one last question for you today.
Yes.
What does it mean to you to be a Catch a Lift Fund veteran athlete?
I think and I was kind of going back and forth about it with myself, but initially I went in here just to kind of learn about it and tell others. But when I got to talking to the coaches and meeting with people and getting support from the people on doing CrossFit as well, like, it's almost become like a gym family aspect, and it's something that I didn't know I was missing, because like I said, I'm pretty much a loner in the gym. I don't really go work out with anyone right now, but just even having that, that option to talk about the workout and communicate with people, I'm like, wow, I was missing this the whole time. I don't like to work out with people, but I like to talk about my workouts with people, and other people do too. So it's just a different aspect. I didn't think about it. I didn't know, honestly, I didn't know that I would enjoy it this much. I was just trying to look at the resource and find out how it could help other veterans, and it's helping me. So
that's tremendous. Walter, we are so very grateful that you found Catch a Lift and made it over to us and are a part of our Catch a Lift family. Thank you so much for your service to our great country and for the service you continue to give to your community. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
That's it for this week's episode of Coach's Corner. We will return next Wednesday at 1 Eastern Time with another episode. Thank you again, Walter, for sharing your story and your light with us all today. It was absolutely tremendous. Thank you to Lynn Coughlin, Henry Pomper, and Kaylee Nasiri for all the work you do to make this podcast possible week after week. And we thank the entire Cal team. Don't forget to join us every Wednesday live at 1 p.m. Eastern on YouTube for a chance to win Cal swag and to chat with your brothers and sisters. Until next week, keep it real and stay Cal strong.